Good afternoon. My name is Ebony Shanks, and this is my interpersonal communication project. If you advance to the next slide, it just gives a brief introduction. Again, I'm Ebony, and I'm currently 23 years old, working on my human services degree with a specialization in criminal justice. We advance to the next slide, and we see that it's labeled overarching goal, and mine is to become a level 1 listener, such as an empathetic listener, which is what Burley Allen discussed in that book. For me to be an empathetic listener, it basically means that I will have to listen effectively and then set aside all judgments just to get a better understanding of what the person is actually trying to convey. And once we move to the next slide, we can see that empathetic listening also plays a role in enlarging the conversation. With enlarging the conversation, basically you listen to what the other person is saying, and then once you go to respond, you have to respond outside your normal thinking pattern. So that is how we facilitate conversation between groups, whether you're talking individually with someone. All of that plays a major role in enlarging that conversation with others. And as we move to the next slide, we discuss my background in behavioral blend. When I took the Uniquely You test, I was categorized as the C in the DISC blend, and that was task-oriented and reserved. I can definitely say that I did agree with a lot of the characteristics there. I am more of a reserved person, and I am also a task-oriented person. It was noted that task-oriented people are very cautious, contemplative, so I do think a lot before I actually complete an activity. It's just something that I've been taught to do my whole life, and that plays a very, very major part in my communication as a whole. Once we move to the next slide, we will see that I discuss Carbonell, and according to his research, he suggests that because of the behavioral blend that I'm in, that people expect me to be direct, submissive, competent. However, I see myself as possessing a lot of strength, being sensitive and being serious in thinking, and that's also how other people perceive me versus what I think they perceive of me. And moving to the next slide, which is a continuation of the past slides, again, I stated that I'm reserved and task-oriented, so that has positively influenced my conversation because it allows me to sit back and observe the different actions and different conversations of others. And by observing the actions of others, I get a better understanding of the issues that may be going through or that they may be talking about during conversation. Again, I talked about being contemplative under this category, and it can sometimes get in the way of what I'm trying to the conversation that I'm trying to have with others, because I can take a long time to process what they are saying to me, and it may seem, if I'm contemplating and not really saying anything, I may seem uninterested when really I'm just trying to get my thoughts together to say exactly what I want to say. And sometimes because I am contemplative, I get frustrated with myself, which when talking to somebody else, it comes off as being frustrated with them. Once we move to the next slide, we see barriers to interpersonal communication. My 3 barriers that I chose were lack of education, emotion, and rebuttal. For the lack of education, before I read the information for this class, I had no idea that there were levels to listening. So as most of our classmates, I was at a level 2 or 3 of listening, and I definitely need to get to that level 1 to be able to work in the career that I'd like to work in. As far as emotions are concerned, I know that sometimes when I'm having conversations with others, I let my emotions get the best of me. So even though they're talking, they may not be saying something that is personally directed towards me, but I take it personally, and then at that point I don't even feel like having the conversation with someone anymore. We move over to the next slide and we see rebuttals. And for me, that's one of the major problems that I have. If I disagree with something, I don't tend to wait until the person is finished talking. I usually interrupt and have my rebuttal prepared, which is not good at all. And I figured something to help me out with that would be Peterson's TLC, which is the talker listener card. That would help me learn to say what I have to say after the other person is done talking. And that was something that I learned in the practical book review that we had to do of the Peterson text. And I actually utilized that in a group setting with the adolescent girls at my job. So some solutions that I came up with to help with the barriers were to better educate myself on what it means to be an empathetic listener, level 1 listener. And I feel like this class has really taught me that I can do further research once the class is over so I can keep developing my listening skills. My second solution was, or is, to be aware of my emotions. I always take things to heart, so I think I need to step back and realize that people are not always trying to target me when they're talking about something. They could be just talking in general. And I think once I'm aware of those emotions, I can kind of, navigate or stray away from the arguments that ensue because of my emotions. And lastly, I definitely like to keep control of the rebuttals. Again, I can use the TLC card that Peterson came up with to just sit and wait, more so listen without judgment. And I realize that if I'm coming up with a rebuttal in my head when the other person is talking, I'm not really listening to them. I'm waiting for them to hurry up and finish so I can say what I have to say. And for the action plan on the next slide, I've decided that in order to accomplish my goal, I'm going to have to continue educating myself, whether that's through classes, whether that's through textbooks, just gaining that deep understanding of what it actually means to be a level 1 listener. And I'll also have to take note on what really upsets me as far as my emotions when I'm talking to other people. If I can target what it is that's making me upset when I'm talking to people, then I can, kind of keep that in check. I won't let that affect me as much as I have been letting it affect me. And of course, the last solution is that I'm going to utilize that TLC card, whether I have to use it just talking individually to people or in group setting. I am going to utilize that card because I believe that is a great start for me to begin to effectively listen to others and talk to others in a way that I'd like to be talked to. And that is it for my presentation. I've thoroughly enjoyed this class. It has really helped me hone in on what I need to work on as far as my communication and what I need to work on as far as my listening. Thank you for taking the time out to watch the video. You have a great day. Bye-bye.